What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's some of my final thoughts ahead of the Game Week 17 deadline. So I'm going to go through the key team news first of all, then talk about benching headaches, go through some of your questions, and quickly look at my own team as well. So let's get into it. Let's start with the team news. And for Liverpool, Slot spoke about Szoboszlai. He said he did parts of training on Thursday and then went on to say, depends how he does today. Then we speak with the player and the medical staff. If the player feels comfortable and does all the things he needs to, then he will start. So basically, if he's fit, he will be in that 11 against Spurs in Game Week 17. There is still some doubt there, obviously, because Slot hasn't said he's definitely available. So I probably wouldn't buy him this week. And also, he's on 4 yellow cards. So if he does start and picks up that 5th yellow, he'll then miss Wolves at home, which would be super frustrating. So unless you're in a position where all your plans are absolutely perfect, as long as you buy Szoboszlai this week, then I would just avoid him. For most people, if you've got him, I would probably play him. Like, yes, there is some risk there. Could he be on the bench and maybe come on in the second half? Potentially. But he feels like the kind of player that will almost certainly just start. Like a Bruno Fernandes almost. They're just always usually available. When they start. I think he'll be fine. Can't guarantee it, obviously. But from what Slot has said, it seems fairly positive. Other Liverpool stuff. For Gakpo, he's had a scan and he might come back earlier than expected, but he's out for Game Week 17. So we might see him play some part in 18, 19 or 20. And obviously with Gakpo back, that's another attacker to add to the mix. So if you're looking at Ekitike thinking, well, Gakpo's out, Salah's obviously at AFCON, Ekitike has to play, Gakpo might be back in a game week or two. We're not exactly sure when, but it will mean every attacker takes a little bit of a dip in minutes because Gakpo will play. Not every game, obviously. There will be some early subs there. He may get benched himself, but he could play a part over the next few weeks. So it doesn't mean Ekitike is a bad option. But again, a bit like with Szoboszlai, if you can wait until Wolves at home, I probably just would. Like Spurs away is not a bad fixture. If you've got Liverpool players, you're probably playing them for the most part. But you could just wait till Game Week 18 before you make a big move for any Liverpool player. Gomez not in the squad. He's picked up an injury, but Bradley's available and Frimpong's back as well. So I don't see Szoboszlai playing right back anytime soon if he is back in the 11 this week. For Arsenal, Ben White is out. It doesn't sound as bad as maybe people first were saying. Arteta said he's evolving well. Let's hope we can have him in a few games. So maybe 19 or 20, possibly he could be back. I still think Timber will play the large majority of minutes, so I wouldn't really panic too much there. And if you've got Ben White, he's an easy sell. On Gabriel, he said he's pushing hard, evolving well. Have to see in the next stages of rehab how he progresses, but we are quite positive. So Gabriel's going to be missing Game Week 17. If you've got Nketiah, not a problem. I'm pretty hopeful as an Nketiah owner that he'll also play Game Week 18 as well. We just need to keep an eye on what Arteta says about Gabriel. And I know every time I say that, everyone just tells me Arteta's not helpful, he always lies, etc. But he did literally tell us last week Saliba would be back for Everton and that he would see if he's available or not for the Wolves game. And obviously he got thrown straight in for Wolves because they had no one else. So if Arteta says something similar next week about Gabriel, there is a chance that he could just start in 18. So we do need to keep an eye on what he says, even if he's not completely open with information. But Nketiah looks fine this week, and I'm hoping next week as well. I think, look, they won't take Brighton for granted, but I think Villa at home is the game they'll really want him for, because obviously they've just lost against Villa in the reverse fixture. So let's keep an eye on Gabriel. Nketiah should be fine for now. On Brighton, Welbeck's apparently got an ongoing issue that hasn't healed yet. And Hertzler said he's been restricted during training. So he has done some training, but not normally, basically. And then he said, let's see if he's an option to start. So he's not ruled out, but he is a doubt. I would not buy Welbeck right now. I know a lot of people are thinking about selling. I still think there's a chance he will start against Sunderland at home. But if you've got another forward you're happy to move to, it might be worth just relieving yourself of the headache, basically. Because it is Arsenal away in Game Week 18 anyway. And then you've got the same headache afterwards about will he or won't he start. So if you're in a position where you don't really want to transfer him out, I think it's okay to risk starting him because Sunderland at home is not a bad fixture. But if there's someone you really want that you don't own from the forwards, yeah, maybe it's time to move Welbeck on. So for Brentford, their press conference was on Thursday, and Keith Andrews said about Henderson and Thiago, I don't know yet. They've been with the medics today. We'll see how they are. So he didn't say they were fine, didn't rule them out either. After the game on Wednesday, the Carabao Cup match, he said they didn't quite make this one. Again, talking about Henderson and Thiago. So didn't quite make this one, but they're not far off. We'll see how they are tomorrow. I won't say 100%, but I am very, very confident they will both play. I'm fairly certain they've both missed out to be given a rest. But Keith Andrews did not want to come out and say they've not played two of their better players for a quarter-final. I suspect that's what it is. There is some doubt there because I do think it's weird that neither of them were in the squad at all. But I still think they're going to play. So if you've got Thiago, I think you should be fairly comfortable starting him. Again, I cannot guarantee it. I could be wrong. Right? And part of the reason I'm probably being confident about Thiago's minutes is because I don't really want to sell him. Like, if the question is, who do you replace Thiago with? I don't like many of the options, especially this week. So I probably am being subconsciously a little bit overconfident because I would just like to keep him. He's a nailed-on penalty taker with pretty good fixtures. There might be, as I mentioned in, I think, yesterday's video, slight concerns when you get to kind of game weeks 19 and 20 because he hasn't played any midweek fixtures so far. But for Wolves away, Bournemouth at home, I think he's going to play this week. And if he does, a week later is the next game. So I think he'll be fine. If you want to play it ultra safe, bench him, sell him, whatever. But I think he'll be okay. For Crystal Palace, Glasner told us like last week that he wasn't going to start any player twice in the fixture at the week. The midweek fixture in Europe plus the Leeds game. And in the press conference, apparently he told us the 11 against Leeds. Now it's fairly straightforward because he doesn't rotate that much. But basically it's Henderson, Richards, Lacroix, Gay, Klein, Hughes, Wharton, Mitchell, Pino, Mateta and Nketiah. So if you are worried about your Palace player not starting, don't worry. Glasner has literally told us the team. Pino may be worth thinking about as a short-term punt with the fixtures Palace have got. With Kamada injured and Sarah AFCON, he should start quite a bit. So should Nketiah. If you're looking for a cheap playing forward right now and you don't want to go for like Calvert-Lewin or Barry at Everton, then Nketiah is probably worth a look. I don't know if his minutes are absolutely certain, even with Kamada injured and Sarah AFCON, but he should play quite a lot, and he's only 5.4 million. Now, it's not great to buy a forward that then plays as like a number 10, but I don't think it matters too much in this setup under Glasner. Like, he's still going to be central a lot. He's still going to get a good few chances. Not bad for 5.4 million, but you know that is a short-term pick, and you know there is risks there over Christmas about whether he will start every game. But if you need specifically a cheap forward for your bench boost in 17, 18, 19, he's got Leeds away, Spurs at home, Fulham at home. And there is a chance that he will just play all of them. So we'll have to wait and see. It's worth saying, by the way, Palace do have, between Leeds and Spurs, a Carabao Cup game against Arsenal. I suspect Glasner will go quite strong in that. So there is a chance there is some rotation for the Spurs game. But I think Nketiah may be worth the risk for 5.4. For Everton, Dewsbury Hall is out of game week 17, which we kind of knew was coming. David Moyes did not say how long he'd be out for. So we're still a little bit in the dark on that. There is some rumours going around that it's like 4 to 6 weeks out, and that he's probably going to be out until at least the end of January. But I've not seen that from an account where I know it, and I know they're definitely right. But it's almost like no smoke without fire, basically. So I suspect that, and Dewsbury Hall put an Instagram story out basically saying it's just a blip, I'll be back soon or something like that. But I suspect, he's going to be missing up until at least game week 20. At least, I would say. So I don't think you'll get in the next 4 games out of him. And you're probably going to miss the Wolves game in 21 as well. There's a little bit of a break then for FA Cup. So game week 22 against Villa is the 18th of January. Maybe by then, or Leeds in 23. But it's quite a long time to be missing. In terms of replacements, like a little bit higher price, you've got like Wilson, Tavernier, or Elliot Anderson potentially. With Dewsbury Hall out, someone like, and I've heard James on Planet FPL mention this, someone like Alcaraz should play quite a bit for 5.2 million. Might be an option. Like, he started the last 3 games. Maybe a bit of a punt from next week, but you wouldn't want to buy him before Arsenal. Unfortunately, at Dewsbury Hall's price, depending on when you got him, like if it's 5 million or below, there's not many options. Someone like Lefay you could buy, who's nailed on pretty much for Sunderland on penalties. But it is Brighton away this week, City at home in 19. So the fixtures aren't amazing. But if you can use him as a rotation piece, they do have like Leeds at home in 18. It's Spurs 20, Brentford 21. Both away games. But if you had to play him, maybe not the end of the world. And then for Man United, no one probably cares about this, but De Ligt and Maguire are out. So if you've got them in FPL for some reason, they're going to be missing again. But let's go through some benching headaches for game week 17. Right at the top of the list, I've gone for Thiago against Wolves away. If you've got him and you're keeping him, you've got to play him. It's such a good fixture, and I am pretty confident that he will start. The amount of times I'm going to say that in this video is starting to make me a little bit worried, because there is a chance he doesn't, but I think he will. Raul Jimenez, Forest at home, is second on the list. I know Harry Wilson did amazing last week, and for Raul Jimenez owners it was frustrating, but he's still the penalty taker. He's still got more goal threat than Wilson. I would have him a little higher up. Then I've gone for Minte against Sunderland at home, then Harry Wilson against Forest at home, then Szoboszlai against Spurs away. As always, if you want to play it ultra safe, then bench Szoboszlai because he is a bit of a doubt, but I suspect he will start. Then Declan Rice against Everton away. Then comes the defenders. I've gone for Van Heck quite high up. I still think Sunderland at home is quite nice. If you look at the underlying numbers in terms of XG per game so far this season, I think Sunderland are in the bottom 3. I know they've done really well overall. I know stats don't mean everything. I'm happy they're in the top half. Like, it's good to see. We don't want all the newly promoted teams going straight back down. But the stats are not backing up that is a good attack at all. So I think I would have Van Heck quite high. Then I've gone for Van Dijk. Spurs away is not great, but I don't know. It's just the price tag has probably got something to do with my thoughts on Van Dijk. It does feel wrong to bench someone that's so expensive, but he is the kind of player that's got multiple routes to points. He's a bit like Gabriel, not quite so good. Obviously, Liverpool defence is not as good as Arsenal. Van Dijk's goal threat's not as good as Gabriel, but he's that similar type of player. He does have some goal threat. He is good for DEFCONs, and there is potential for a clean sheet. So I'd have him quite high up, but I've put him behind Van Heck. Although, I don't know, as I'm reading through this, I'm not quite sure about that. But as always, it's a headache. It's always a close call. Then Anderson from Fulham against Forest at home. Then Anderson for Forest against Fulham away. That question about which Anderson is going to come up a lot of times. It's such a close call. It really is. I'm going to go for the home guy, basically, who's also good for DEFCONs. But what I think most people should probably do is play Anderson from Forest. Because Anderson from Fulham, although apparently you call him, you're supposed to say Anderson, but we'll get to that in another video, I'm sure. I think people are starting to get a bit frustrated with Anderson from Fulham because they don't keep a huge amount of clean sheets. So you should probably play the Forest guy. I would play the Fulham guy. And then you've basically got Crystal Palace defenders. So I've put them in order: Lacroix, Gay, Richards, and then Rodon right at the bottom. Lacroix is just more of a differential than Gay, but most people don't own both either way. So it's a weird one because I actually think Palace defenders are not that bad to buy right now because of the fixtures they've got coming up. There's a question about Palace defenders later on. But in terms of this specific list for the benching headaches this week, I'd have them quite low down. So what are your thoughts on Mason Mount as a cheap short-term differential? He's 2 million cheaper than Cunha, the same amount of returns in fewer minutes, and almost guaranteed to start every game until game week 22. So general thoughts are, I like him if you're willing to take a little bit of a punt. He's less than 6 million. And like you said, he's a cheap short-term differential. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever, especially if you've got a bunch of transfers saved up. The next 2 fixtures are not amazing, but not awful either. So Villa away, Newcastle at home. It's really the 3 after that look great for Man United. So Wolves at home 19, followed by Leeds away, Burnley away. So I quite like him. Just a couple of things on the Cunha comparison. I think part of the reason that maybe he's got similar returns in less minutes is because Cunha's underperformed a little bit so far. Like if you look at his expected goals, it's 3.6. He's only scored 2. His expected assist 1.4. He's got 1. So he's got an expected goal involvement of 5 and only 3 attacking returns. And honestly, no matter what you think about Man United or Cunha as a pick, if you've watched the last 2 games, I don't know how he's only walked away with a goal or an assist. So I would expect a bit of an uptick in Cunha moving forward. And also on the almost guaranteed, I mean, you did say almost to be fair, but there are some risks with the minutes, more so with Mount than Cunha, in my opinion. And that's purely a fitness thing, by the way. Not even necessarily how Amorim wants to set up thing. If Mount is fit and he can stay fit, he will play all those games. I think Man United are a better team with him in there. And obviously they're losing Ahmad and Mbeumo as well. So I do agree his minutes should be good. It's just the fitness. Like, how many minutes can he play? This is a guy that doesn't often play. Like, I think he's played 90 minutes once this season, which was the other week. 90 against Palace. Next game he was benched against West Ham. Then he played 83 against Wolves and only 68 against Bournemouth. Now, in the Bournemouth game, United were chasing a goal, so you're probably more likely to keep Cunha on than Mason Mount. But the minutes are not as guaranteed. So that's the only slight concern. The good news is, if you want to take this punt, Man United's spacing between fixtures is quite good. So it's Sunday this week, then Friday. They're the only team other than Newcastle who they're playing to play on Boxing Day. Then they don't play again until Tuesday. So you got Saturday, Sunday, Monday off. And they don't play again until Sunday. So could you see Mount being benched once over Christmas? Potentially. More so than I would expect with Cunha. But the minutes overall should be pretty good. Ultimately, Mount is putting up 0.2 expected goals per 90, 0.13 expected assists. Cunha is 0.34, according to the stats on Fantasy Football Hub, per 90 XG. So he's got higher goal threat and he's more likely to play higher minutes as well. So Cunha is still the better option if you really want a Man United attacker. But if you want someone cheap, I do not mind the punt on Mount. But I wouldn't be able to sit here and guarantee his minutes as much. I would be not shocked but surprised if Cunha doesn't start every game over Christmas. I'd be less surprised if Mount was on the bench for one of those games. So would you transfer in Keane or Richards as a cheap defender? I've said this quite a lot over the last couple of game weeks. It really depends which weeks you need these players for, because at a price of 5 million or below, they are quite benchable. So if you need someone this week but not next week, that might change who you want to bring in. If you're downgrading a defender that you don't necessarily need this week and it's for future weeks, then obviously it depends what the future fixtures look like. For what it's worth, this specific question, if you need someone this week, it's probably got to be Richards, right? You're better off buying Richards before Leeds away than Keane before he plays Arsenal. And also with Keane, you do have the worry that at some point Branthwaite will be back. Now, I don't expect that to be anytime soon. I think you'll get at least the next 4 fixtures out of Keane, but it feels wrong to buy him before Arsenal. I've recently sold Lacroix, and I don't necessarily regret it, but I do wonder if it's just actually quite easy to keep a Palace defender at the moment. Like, if you had to play them against Leeds away, Spurs at home, Fulham at home, which is the next 3 fixtures, it's not a problem. And okay, it's Newcastle away in 20, not great. Then it's Villa at home, Sunderland away. So I think 5 of the next 6 are perfectly reasonable to play your Palace defender there. And Richards is only 4.6. So I actually quite like him. I know there's lots of chat going around about Crystal Palace being fatigued and tired, etc. And look, Mateta's obviously having to be managed because of the knee problem. They've lost Sarr. Kamada's injured as well. It's not great, but they're still a good team. They've still got all their defence, well, apart from Munoz actually, fit and available. And I don't like, Munoz is obviously a massive miss overall, but I don't think him missing out suddenly makes Palace really vulnerable. Like, they did pretty well against Man City despite conceding 3 goals. I'd probably go Richards. I think is the safer option. From next week, I quite like Keane. And I like him the longer Branthwaite is out for, basically. So Burnley away, Forest away, Brentford at home, Wolves at home will be the 4 games between 18 and 21. He's probably playable in all of those. He's not bad for DEFCONs. He's good for goal threat as well. It's just whether you get the Leeds at home game out of him as well in game week 23. But if you're happy to go for Keane for 4 weeks and then figure it out afterwards, he's my preferred option from next week. So if I was buying this week, probably Richards. Next week, I'd probably buy and risk Michael Keane. In terms of other cheap defenders, like, I wouldn't class Chalobah as cheap right now. I think Van Heck is not terrible, but again, it's going to depend on when you need him, right? If you need him next week as well, he's playing Arsenal away. It's just terrible. So I quite like him this week, and then he's definitely playable in 19 and 20. And actually, long term, he's pretty good. Like, if you can dodge him and bench him against Arsenal away in 18 and City away in 21, I would argue that every other fixture he is playable up until probably 25. Like 26, 27 are 2 away games against Villa, Brentford. All the games before that, they're kind of okay. So I quite like Van Heck as well. I would not buy Senesi right now because after Burnley at home, he's quite sellable. That's probably about it right now, I think. There's probably someone I've missed, but that's the main players I'd be looking at. Joachim Andersen's okay as well for the next couple, but it's a bit like the Harry Wilson situation. It's Palace away 19, followed by Liverpool at home, Chelsea home, so I'd probably avoid him for now. Richards, if you really need someone to play this week. Van Heck is also good if you can dodge him next week. And Keane from 18 is quite nice. So would you still bench boost with Thiago? Simple answer is yes, because I am pretty confident that he will start. If you are less confident or you do not want to take the risk, then obviously delay the bench boost. But it's worth pointing out, you've only got 3 weeks to use it now. 17, 18, 19, that is it. From game week 20 onwards, we'll all get another set of chips. So another free hit, another wild card, another triple captain, and another bench boost. So unless you are in a position where your bench is going to look great in 18 or 19 with minimal transfers, I would just get it used. You do not want to be spending like 3-4 transfers to get this bench boost fixed if you were trying to play it in 17 and now you're thinking about delaying it 18, 19. I just don't think the chip is that good. And I'm pretty confident Thiago will start. Look, I could just be creating a narrative, as I've already said, because I want to keep him in my team because I don't like many other forwards. But he's not played any midweek so far. And I just think with Brentford, the manager can't come out and say, no, we just didn't want to play him in a quarter-final. He's just not going to say that. So I suspect it's the same thing with him and Henderson. They probably could have played if they really needed to, but they didn't want to take the risk, and he's probably going to start against Wolves away. Like, my prediction is a start, so I've got to say I would still bench boost. I would understand if we were in like game week 5 or 11 or something like that, and you could put it off because you had loads of time to play it, but time is running out. And my guess is that for most people, if you're going to play it in 17, the bench doesn't look miles better in 18 or 19. And if it doesn't, you're just going to have all these same headaches the next couple of weeks. So I would probably, in most cases, just get it played. So who's the best third Man City option, Cherki or O'Reilly? I guess we're assuming that Haaland and Foden are the best two, which I don't think many people would argue right now. I mean, the obvious answer is, do you need a defender or a midfielder? Like, if your defence looks great, then you don't need to buy O'Reilly. You can go and buy Cherki instead. Likewise, if you're happy with your midfield, but your defence needs work, go and buy O'Reilly. So that's the obvious answer. But actually, I think it probably is overall just O'Reilly. I think with Aït-Nouri at AFCON and O'Reilly basically having that left-back spot nailed down at the moment, his minutes should continue to be pretty good over the next few weeks. The usual caveat applies. He's a Man City player. You never quite know. But I think his minutes will be more secure in the short to medium term than with Cherki. Now, Cherki started midweek as well, but I expect he will play against West Ham. But there's definitely early sub potential there. And once Doku is back, which could be in a few games, then obviously there's concerns over the minutes as well. Obviously, Doku and Cherki can play in the same team, and that will happen quite a lot. But Cherki's minutes, I think, are a bit more susceptible to going down quickly versus O'Reilly. So I really like both options this week. And if Cherki keeps playing, he's a massive differential at 6.5. But I think the obvious, boring, but unfortunately probably correct answer is O'Reilly. So nice and simple question. Is Anthony Gordon a sell? I want to say no, but I think the correct answer might be yes. And it feels horrible to say that because the fixtures coming up are really good. Like Man United away in 18 is not terrible. Then it's Burnley away, Palace at home, Leeds at home, Wolves away. He's first choice penalty taker. He's only 7.3 million. And okay, Chelsea at home this week's not great, but after that it's quite good. So I want to say no, he's not a sell. But the problem is you just don't have the confidence in the minutes anymore. Like in seasons gone past, you'd look at Gordon as a safe starter that will play 80 to 90 most weeks. And that's great over Christmas. But that's not what he is anymore. Like you look at the recent minutes, 58 against Sunderland. So another pre-60 minute sub. 73 against Burnley. 24 against Spurs because he was benched. And like this goes back even before. Like back in like game week 10, 45 minutes. Game week 9, 75. And then 69, 69, 66. Like, he's not played many 90s this season. They've got competition there with the likes of Harvey Barnes. I look at the fixture run that Newcastle got and think, that is great. Like, 19 to 22, we should all be looking at buying Gordon. And maybe when it comes around, we will, if there's like an injury to other attackers and stuff like that. But you just can't guarantee he's going to start them all. Like, I'm pretty sure he'll start Chelsea. And actually, because Newcastle have that Boxing Day fixture against Man United, like I was talking about with Mount, the space is not bad. Like Saturday, Friday, Tuesday, Sunday. Like, can Anthony Gordon play all those games? Absolutely. But will he? I don't know. And even if he does, like at what point in the match is he going to get subbed off? So we know he's first choice. There's no doubt about that. He is first choice left winger for Newcastle. It doesn't mean he's going to play all the minutes. And I look at Chelsea at home, Man United away, and I think there are other players you could go to right now. I think ultimately it will probably come down to how many transfers you've got. And that is going to be a big topic of discussion over the next few weeks. Like, if you're sat there with 4 or 5, then yeah, maybe you just go Gordon to Semenyo and then figure out game week 19 what to do with Gordon. But that's the reason I hesitated at the start to say a definite yes that he's a sell, because depending on what moves I make the next few weeks, I might get to game week 19, need a new midfielder. I've already got Cunha in my team, who I think everyone will be looking at that point. Maybe I do just take a punt on Gordon. So that's why I don't feel comfortable sitting here telling you, yes, he's an absolute sell. But my gut feeling is he might just be worth getting rid of. I don't like it at all because of the fixtures they've got coming up. Like, his first choice penalty taker, it's like he's only 7.3. Sounds crazy to sell him, but I think in a lot of situations, if you've got a good team, but you need a midfield change, you've got the transfers to deal with it and maybe bring him back, I'd be tempted to move him on. If you're sat there with one transfer, maybe just keep him and hope for the best. So is Elliot Anderson to Harry Wilson a sideways move or a worthwhile move? I think it's a move that's somewhat reasonable. Like, it's fine. I wouldn't strongly argue against it. I'd definitely rather have Harry Wilson this week for Forest at home and then next week for West Ham away than I would Elliot Anderson. So he is better for the next 2 weeks. I've still got slight reservations about him as a longer term pick. Like, it's Palace away in 19, followed by Liverpool at home, Chelsea at home. But he is only 5.6 million. You could even potentially bench him in some of those games. Like, he's not that much more expensive than Dewsbury Hall, who I had in my squad before he got injured. I've still got him, by the way, but you know what I'm trying to say. And I wasn't playing him every week. So it's perfectly reasonable to do that with Wilson. If you get to 19, 20, 21, and you've got 4 good defenders to play instead, potentially you could just play them. So it's not that I think he's a bad pick, but I do think basically he's got a lot of points recently, which is probably not all that sustainable for a player like that. And now everyone wants to bring him in. And they've missed the Burnley game. So now you've got 2 good fixtures until they turn. So that's why I think it's fine. Like, he is better for the next 2. But long term, is he a much better option that's worth spending a transfer on? That, I think, is a little bit more debatable. It is, as I said recently in a video, basically, with Elliot Anderson, everybody got, and I'm not saying literally everyone, but a lot of people got very excited because he got 996 points. All the conversation went round. He's got a floor of 4 points. He's going to be 4+ every single week. Then he's got 243. Because he doesn't get defensive contributions every single week, and he can pick up yellow cards, etc. He won't always get clean sheets, blah, blah, blah. He's still an okay long-term pick. He's going to tick over with points. He's a good price. He's going to play every minute over Christmas. He's not a terrible option to keep hold of, but he's not an exciting pick. He's very rarely going to go and get you double digits, which obviously Wilson has shown he can do recently. So it depends what kind of pick you want. I think for most people, I said this the other day, most people watching this video, they don't want a floor pick, which has like a good floor but not a massive ceiling, who they can just keep long term. People just don't want that. They want to make transfers. They want to move players around with good fixtures. So if you want to sell Anderson, it's absolutely fine. But ultimately, he is still what he was when you bought him. He's at 12.94 defensive contributions per start, so he will hit +2 points quite regularly. He's got some attacking threat. It's not as good as Wilson, but we already knew that. He's perfectly reasonable to keep hold of. But if you want to make... I wouldn't call it sideways. I just wouldn't call it an amazing move either. But if you've got spare transfers... Like, this is the thing right now. It's all well and good me saying I probably wouldn't make that move. If you're sat there with 4 or 5 transfers, why not? Like, honestly, you've got nothing else to do because your team is that perfect. Why not make a move like that? And then if you've still got 2, 3, 4 transfers next week, the week after, you can deal with it if or when it becomes a problem. It's not like guaranteed that Wilson becomes a problem. He might smash it the next 2 weeks and you might be more than happy that you did it. So, yeah, it's fine. As I said before, I don't see myself buying Wilson anytime soon. But that doesn't mean he's a bad pick. So let's run through some final thoughts for my own team going into tomorrow's deadline. I've got 3 free transfers and nothing in the bank. And ultimately, I have come to the conclusion I should probably roll a transfer and not make any moves for 2 reasons. 1, my team just looks quite well set up this week. And 2, I'm a little bit unsure about exactly what the best move would even be. And in situations like that, especially when your team looks okay, it's probably best just to do nothing. Getting to next week with 4 free transfers, I think is going to be really useful. My defence will not look as good next week. I'm still going to have Dewsbury Hall injured. I will need to do something, but I'm not quite sure what move that is. And I can't see anything this week that makes my team miles better for next week. So I think I've got to just roll. For example, this week, I've thought about selling Saka for Semenyo. Now, I think Saka's good this week, but Semenyo's got Burnley at home. Great option. And that will give me the money to upgrade Dewsbury Hall. So like a Sabosla, I could take the risk on him, or I could go for Sharda for a double up on the Brentford attack. They've got pretty good fixtures. Sharda should be nailed on over Christmas. The problem is if I do that, then I'm obviously going to want to play whichever player I bring in for Dewsbury Hall and whoever I bring in for Saka. So I would have to play a 3-5-2. So that means I'd be benching 2 of Van Dijk, Anderson and Vandenberg. And they're all pretty good options this week. So I cannot see the sense in using 2 transfers to upgrade Dewsbury Hall to bench one of those defenders. To me, it just seems much better to play 4-4-2 and have 4 transfers next week. That's quite a nice position to be in. A lot of people would have blown a lot of transfers last week and probably a few more this week, whereas I'm going to have 4 next week. Now, Van Dijk will look good next week. Nketiah probably, as long as Gabriel's not back. But if he is back, Nketiah is then a problem. Senesi's got Brentford away. Vandenberg, I think, is home to home to Bournemouth. And Anderson's away to West Ham. So my defence is not awful, but it's not as good as it looks this week. And ultimately, I don't really want to sell Saka, but at some point, one of my midfielders will have to go if I want to spend some money. And even with Thiago yellow flagged, I've already said in this video, I'm pretty confident he will start. If he doesn't, and he's a doubt next week, then there's forwards that I'm happier to move to. Like maybe Ekitike for Wolves at home, Leeds at home. Maybe Jarrod Bowen for Christmas because he'll play 90 minutes every game. This week, there's no other forwards I really want. So I think I'm just going to play 4-4-2 and roll. It just makes so much sense. I've got no money in the bank, so I cannot upgrade Dewsbury Hall to like a Harry Wilson or something like that. And I don't want to make 2 moves just to get Harry Wilson in. Honestly, it just feels rubbish. Like, I like him. He's a nice short-term move. But long-term, I'm just not that worried about him. And I could go from Dewsbury Hall to like Enzo Lefebvre at Sunderland, who's on penalties and often plays 90 minutes. But I'm not desperate to have him for Brighton away. And again, if I bring him in, I've got a bench of defender, and they're all pretty good this week. So maybe I bring him in next week for Leeds at home. Maybe I get to Game Week 18, I do Dewsbury Hall to Enzo Lefebvre, and just roll back to 4 transfers the week after. Like, I've got options next week, and I can give it some serious thought. The only thing, honestly, and this is not actually, you know what, it's somewhat logical, right? We're all human. The only thing making me think about spending 2 transfers this week is I'll definitely, unless I get an injury, want to roll next week, and that could be optimal for Christmas. I don't really want to spend too much time in the run-up to Christmas thinking about my FPL team too much. I'm happy to obviously make content and stuff, but I think I'll be okay. I'll figure something out. Someone will get injured, and I'll just make a move. And ultimately, I'll get closer to Christmas Day, and I'll just make my moves because I don't want to be thinking about it too much. But that has crossed my mind as well. Like Alcaraz maybe for Dewsbury Hall, because Everton's fixtures are good next week, but he's 5.2 million, so I can't do it in one move. So I've got to roll, and you'll all be happy to know I've put Vandenberg in the team. I don't know if that will stick. I've had so many comments about Vandenberg. It's kind of crazy, and I'm playing him over Anderson. I just can't bench Van Dijk this week. If he scores when I bench him, that will kill me. Nketiah Everton away is good. Vandenberg Wolves away, Senesi Burnley at home, and then I'm benching Anderson against Forest at home. If Thiago misses out, I'm happy to play 5-4-1 this week. Foden, Saka, Fernandes, Cunha are all good. Haaland captain, job done. Would I like Semenyo? Yes. Could I do Cunha to Semenyo, then back again? Yes, but I don't want to use 2 transfers to do it. So I'm just going to hope the damage from Semenyo is minimal. I know he could get 18, 20 points in that kind of fixture. I'm just hoping he won't. So that's my team. I'm going to roll. That's my reasons. Let me know if you can see a better move. Give it a like if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you again tomorrow for the deadline stream.